My brother stole everything I owned, then made me sign the papers myself, smiling the whole time. I still remember the sound of his laugh that day. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel sounding. That's what made it so terrifying. My brother Chukaram laughed the way a man laughs when he already knows his Wony name is Sakhiram. And this is the story of how my own blood destroyed my life, and how I rebuilt it from nothing, piece by piece, until the man who broke me ended up on his knees, begging. Let me start from the beginning. My father had 2 sons. Chukaram, the elder one, greedy from the day he could speak. And me, the younger one, raised to believe that family meant something. That blood meant loyalty. When our father died, he left everything to Chukaram. All the land, all the money, all the property. I never complained. Not once. I told myself, he's the elder brother, it's his right. I had my wife, Lakshmi, and that was enough for me. Chukaram gave me one small piece of land to farm, barely half an acre, and even for that, he charged me rent. Every single month, I had to pay my own brother just to survive on the land our father once owned together. I worked that land like my life depended on it. Because it did, every morning before sunrise, I was already in the field. My hands were rough, my back ached every night, but I never stopped. Lakshmi would bring me food at noon, and some days, that was the only happiness I had, sitting under a tree, eating with my wife, watching the crops grow a little taller each day. One afternoon, while I was working, Chukaram showed up. He always showed up when things were going well. Like he could smell success from miles away. How's the work going, little brother? He asked, that fake smile already on his face. It's going well, buyer, I said. And don't worry, I'll pay this month's rent soon. Good, good, he said, patting my shoulder. Make sure you do. I need that money. He walked away like a king inspecting his kingdom. I went back to work, not knowing that this was the last peaceful day of my old life. That evening, Lakshmi brought my food and sat beside me, frustration written all over her face. We work so hard on this land, she said. And after everything, we still have to pay rent to your own brother. He cheated us out of our share, gave us this tiny piece of land, and now he takes money from us every month. Why don't you ever say anything to him? I looked at her and smiled, a tired smile, but a real one. God is watching everything, Lakshmi, I said. He never lets injustice continue forever. Be patient. Our time will come. She went quiet after that. We finished our food in silence, the kind of silence between 2 people who still believe in each other, even when the world doesn't believe in them. Days passed. Then weeks. My hard work paid off. The harvest was better than ever. I could finally pay the rent and still have a little left over for us. For the first time in months, I felt hoped. That's when Chukaram made his move. One evening, he showed up at our house with a stack of papers. He had a strange energy about him. Too friendly, too warm. Looking back now, I should have known something was wrong. A wolf doesn't smile at sheep without a reason. Sakhiram, Lakshmi, he said, holding out the papers. I need both of you to sign these. What's written in these papers, buyer? I asked. Read it to us, please. He cleared his throat and said, These papers say that from today, I will no longer take rent from you. In fact, I'm transferring the ownership of this land to your names. I know I haven't treated you fairly all these years, and I want to fix that. I want to correct my mistake. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Lakshmi's eyes filled with tears. After everything, after years of struggle, was our brother finally showing us kindness? We signed those papers without hesitation, without reading a single word ourselves. Because we trusted him. Because he was family that night, we celebrated. We talked about our future. About finally being free from rent. Free from worry. We slept peacefully for the first time in years. The next morning, we went to the field as usual. And that's when Tukaram arrived again. But this time, his smile was different. Colder. Sharper. "How's the work going?" he asked. "Very well, buyer," I replied, still happy from last night. "This time, whatever harvest comes from this land, all of it will be ours, won't it?" He laughed. A short, ugly laugh. "Why would it be yours, brother? This is my land now." My heart stopped. What do you mean?" "Those papers you gave us yesterday, those papers," he said slowly, enjoying every word, "say that everything you and your wife owned, every bit of land in your name, now belongs to me. You signed it yourselves. With your own hands. With your own signatures." I felt the ground disappear beneath my feet. "This can't be true," I whispered. "You said you were giving us the land. You said—" "I said a lot of things," he interrupted. "But what's written on paper is what matters. And what's written says this land, and the land you used to think was yours, all of it is mine now. Which means—" He paused, looking at both of us like we were insects. "You two are now working on my land. You are my workers now. And workers don't get paid from the harvest. Workers get nothing, unless I choose to give it." "Buyer, please," I said, my voice breaking. "I am your own brother. How can you do this to your own family?" He stepped closer, his voice turning hard. "Family? You think family matters when there's land and money involved? Listen carefully. You will work this land. Every day. If you don't, you'll get nothing, not even food. Now get back to work, both of you, before I change my mind about even letting you stay here." He walked away, leaving us standing there in the field, frozen, broken. Lakshmi started crying. I couldn't even comfort her. I had no words. My own brother, the same person who shared a room with me as a child, who I protected from bullies, who I never once said a harsh word to, had just destroyed our entire life. And he did it with a smile that night. I didn't sleep. I sat outside our small hut, staring at the stars, asking God the same question over and over. Why? Why would he do this? But I got no answer. Just silence. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. We worked like slaves on land that was rightfully ours. Tukaram would come by sometimes, just to remind us of our place. Just to see us suffer. I think he enjoyed it. I think watching us break gave him some twisted kind of satisfaction. And then, one day, everything got even worse. Lakshmi told me she was pregnant, and in any normal life, this would have been the happiest news a man could hear. But for me, in that moment, it felt like another weight crushing me. How would I take care of a child when I couldn't even take care of myself? How would I feed a baby when we barely had food for ourselves? That night, I made a decision. I couldn't keep living like this. I couldn't let my child be born into this misery. The next morning, I walked to the house of the village zamindar, the wealthiest landowner in our area. I had heard he was a fair man, someone who treated his workers with respect. With nothing left to lose, I went to his door and folded my hands. "Sahib," I said, my voice shaking, "please give me work. Any work. I'll do anything. My wife is pregnant, and we have nothing left at home. Please, have mercy on us." The zamindar looked at me for a long moment. I expected him to turn me away, like everyone else had. Instead, he smiled gently. "Stop bowing like that," he said. "If you want to work in my fields, I would be happy to have you. Come tomorrow morning. And here," he handed me some money. "Take this. Buy food for tonight. Eat well, and make sure your wife eats too." I couldn't believe it. After months of cruelty, here was a stranger showing me more kindness than my own brother ever had. That night, Lakshmi and I ate a full meal for the first time in what felt like forever. We didn't say much. We just ate and cried a little and felt, for the first time in months, like maybe things could get better. From the next day, I started working in the zamindar's fields. And I poured everything into that work. Every ounce of anger, every bit of pain, every sleepless night, I turned it all into effort. I worked harder than I ever had in my life. Not because I had to, but because for the first time, I was working for someone who respected me. The crops I grew were unlike anything the zamindar had seen before. Every plant grew tall and strong. The fields turned golden with the richest harvest the village had ever seen. When harvest time came, the zamindar earned more money than he ever had. He called me to his house, and as we talked, he asked me something that caught me off guard. "Sukhiram, I heard you have a brother named Tukaram. He's quite wealthy, isn't he? Didn't your father leave you any land or property?" I felt that familiar pain rise in my chest. But I swallowed it. "It's nothing like that, Sahib," I said calmly. "My father left everything to my elder brother before he passed. It was his right. I never asked for anything. What isn't mine, I have no claim to." I left it at that. I didn't want to badmouth my brother, even after everything he'd done. Some part of me still couldn't bring myself to expose him, but the zamindar wasn't satisfied. Something about my answer didn't sit right with him. The next day, he had to visit the local court for some legal matters. And there, he saw something interesting. He saw Tukaram, deep in conversation with a lawyer. The zamindar watched from a distance, curious. After a while, Tukaram left. The lawyer who'd been talking to him happened to be an old friend of the zamindar's. So the zamindar walked over to him. "What was that about?" he asked. "What does that man Tukaram want with you?" And that's when the lawyer told him everything. Everything. How Tukaram had cheated his own brother and sister-in-law out of their land. How he'd tricked them into signing away everything they owned, using fake promises and false papers. How he'd turned his own family into unpaid laborers on land that should have been theirs. The zamindar's face changed as he listened. I later learned that he sat in silence for a long moment, just absorbing what he'd heard. Then he looked at the lawyer and said something I'll never forget. "This man did something unforgivable. He betrayed his own blood, the people who needed him most, when they had nowhere else to turn. And that poor man, Sukhiram, never said a single bad word about him. Not one. That kind of silence isn't weakness. It's strength. And it deserves justice." The lawyer nodded slowly. "What do you want to do?" "We're going to give him a taste of his own medicine," the zamindar said. We're going to deceive the deceiver. And by the end of this, Hiram will get back everything that was stolen from him. Everything. The next day, the lawyer went to Tukaram's house, wearing his most serious expression. Tukaram Sahib, he said urgently, we have a very big problem. What's wrong? Tukaram asked, immediately on edge. Your land, the lawyer said, lowering his voice like he was sharing a terrible secret. All of it, it's been classified as government land. Some old records have surfaced. By law, the government can seize the entire property. You could lose everything. And I mean everything. Without a single rupee in compensation. Tukaram's face went pale. What? That's impossible. There must be some way to fix this. You're a lawyer, do something. I've already tried everything I can, the lawyer said, shaking his head sadly. There's only one person who might be able to help now, the zamindar. He has powerful connections in the government offices. If anyone can save your land, it's him. Then talk to him. Please. I'll do anything. I can try, the lawyer said. But there's a condition. To use his influence, he needs the legal documents transferred into his name temporarily, just as a formality, so the government sees the land is under protection of someone with connections. Once the issue is resolved, he'll transfer it back to you immediately. Fear is a powerful thing. It makes even greedy men desperate. And desperate men make terrible decisions. Tukaram, terrified of losing everything, handed over all his property documents to the lawyer that very day. Every paper, every deed, everything he owned. The lawyer took those documents straight to the zamindar, and here's where the real twist happened. The zamindar didn't just hold on to the documents. He had new papers drawn up, transferring everything, every piece of land, every property that belonged to Tukaram, into the names of Hiram and Lakshmi. With careful planning, the lawyer got Tukaram's signature on these new documents too. Disguised among the other formality papers, Tukaram was too scared and distracted to read carefully. The same trick Tukaram had used on me, used against him. Word for word. Signature for signature. A few days later, the zamindar came to find Lakshmi and me in the fields. Come with me, he said simply. There's something you need to see. We followed him, confused, all the way to Tukaram's house, the same house where I grew up, the same house where my brother had once stood smiling while he destroyed my life. The zamindar knocked on the door, and when Tukaram opened it, the zamindar said, loud and clear, Tukaram, pack your things. Leave this house. It doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to Hiram and his wife now. Tukaram's face twisted with confusion and rage. What is this nonsense? Are you joking? These beggars, what are they doing at my door? This is my house. Lawyer Sahib, the zamindar said calmly, please come inside. Bring the papers. It's time Tukaram learned the truth. The lawyer stepped forward and, in front of all of us, explained everything. Every detail. How Tukaram had tricked his own brother years ago. How the government land crisis had never existed. How every document Tukaram had handed over in panic had been used to transfer his entire fortune into my name. I watched my brother's face as the truth sank in. I watched the color drain from his cheeks. I watched the same man who had once stood in this very field, laughing at my pain, now standing frozen, unable to speak. The zamindar walked closer to him and spoke, his voice steady but heavy with meaning. It hurts, doesn't it? When the betrayal happens to you. When everything you trusted turns out to be a lie. Now you understand exactly what you did to your own brother and his pregnant wife. You left them to suffer, to starve, when they needed you most. So now, I made sure justice was served. Hiram has earned everything he deserves. And you, he turned to two policemen waiting outside. You're going to spend a long time thinking about what loyalty really means. The police led Tukaram away in handcuffs, his protests echoing down the road, growing fainter and fainter until they disappeared completely. I stood there in the doorway of the house I grew up in, the house that was rightfully ours again, with Lakshmi beside me, her hand resting on her belly where our child was growing. For the first time in years, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel the need for revenge anymore, because somehow, without me even asking for it, justice had found its way to us. I looked up at the sky and whispered the same words I had told Lakshmi so many times before. I told you, didn't I? God is always watching. He never lets injustice last forever. A few months later, our son was born, in our own home, on our own land, surrounded by warmth and safety instead of fear and hunger. And every single day since then, when I walk through these fields that are truly ours now, I remember one thing. Sometimes, the people who hurt you the most are the ones closest to you. But if you stay patient, if you stay honest, if you never let bitterness turn you into someone you're not, the truth always finds its way back. And when it does, it doesn't just whisper. It roars.